Hey. Hey. How y'all doing?
Great.
How about that? I didn't get a chance to move in yet, so. Happy 4th weekend? July 4th weekend. It's not the 4th weekend. I just want to be clear about some of that stuff. Thank you. Well, look at this. Nice to see some new faces. It's nice to see some old faces. I had to go there. We are talking today about fish. As you know, CSL likes to keep everybody kind of on the same page. What Cheryl said earlier about a world that works for everybody. So what we want to do is we want to have an idea of something that works for everyone, right? So what they do is they kind of suggest to all of their organizations what you might want to talk about this week. And we don't have to, but it's a nice guidance so everyone's on the same page. What they're talking about today, the theme is Rolling in the Deep for the month, Rolling in the Deep. And they're not talking about the Adele song. I think that what that is a metaphor for ocean, really, quite honestly. Because the ocean, if you look at it, it's nice, right? It's wide open and all you can see is this. But what's underneath it is substantial. What underneath it is a lot, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. We're going to talk about one of them today. This week's topic, the title is called Remember the River Dolphins. Anyone ever know that there is such a thing as a river dolphin? You did, huh? Okay. Good. Okay, so I can be done now, right? You can talk. I didn't know there was anything such as a river dolphin. So I don't know how I'm supposed to remember something that I never knew. Well, I remember things like my first car, my first kiss, that first tropical vacation. How many people here remember the phone number of the house they grew up in? Leave your hands up. How many can remember anything anymore? Isn't that something? So there's this theory that one of the reasons that souls come to the Earth School is to learn kind of who we are. You touched on that in your song. Who are we? That's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. But what was fun, as I was thinking about this, somebody who decided that the souls need to come here to learn who we are decided that somewhere during that journey they said, hey, I got an idea. Let's separate them from everything they knew coming down here so they get to do the whole thing over again. And they're thinking, hey, wouldn't that be fun to watch that? I don't know. We don't know this consciously, but I believe that a lot of our time here on earth is to relearn who we are and what we're all about. Part of what I got from your song here is that don't stop praying, and a lot of people may or may not, I hate making generalizations, but the idea is you pray and you talk to a lot of ways to do that, and we talk about this. But who are we really praying to? Right? If we really want to embrace this thing that we talk about, that we are as it is Gus, by the way, right? God, universe, spirit, or source, right? Gus. If we want to believe that we are as it is, and a lot of us actually wander in that direction, then we're actually praying to ourselves, right? We're putting that intention into our own space and allowing it to happen. Co-creators that we are with the energy that is all that. So what are we learning about? We get to figure out what we're supposed to remember. Stage isn't big enough for me, you know. And so where do we start looking? First, do we have to know what we're looking for? Remember, we forgot everything. So we're here and we don't know anything. So what are we going to look for? First, we had a clue, and then we start to search. Or do we start the search first and then find a clue? I'm not sure how that works out. And where do you get those clues, really? Out here? In here? Are they in the past? Google? We don't know. And if we are actually wandering towards a point of knowing, then does that suggest a destiny? I'm going to touch on that in a bit. We show up here with tendencies. We have personalities when we get here, right? You ever look at a newborn baby? Having not been yet molded by the surroundings, they absolutely show that they have a tendency, they have a personality. They're different. Some of them are pretty chill. Some of them are crabby. Some of them are bashful and grumpy and dopey, sneezy. You know, and you can see that they're ready for action. My daughter, she came out of this thing, she looked like E.T. She was up like this looking around. Hey, what's going on here? She hasn't stopped yet, by the way. And we live fairly comfortable in our tendencies. But over time, we pick up things along the way. We perceive things. And we have perceptions, and a lot of times they may be misperceptions, but we've taken them in, and they become our truth. They become our way of seeing the world, and that's the truth for us. But whatever you think, and as we grow, sometimes these change, but we own them, and sometimes we protect them a little bit too much. Sometimes we lose sight of who we are, and that's the big who we are. And if we're lucky, something will shake us loose, and then we get to realign. And if we're luckier, with a little self-awareness, we don't have to end up getting hit over the head with that divine 2x4 to change our behavior here. My story, for instance, starts at a very young age. Everybody's story starts at a young age. I was gently guided down a path that my folks decided I should live. School, college, all of that, right? And I blindly guided their guidance because that's what you're supposed to do. It didn't work for me. College and I came to an agreement really quickly that we weren't going to spend a whole lot of time together. And I went out on my own kind of a path. But it's funny, but after a while, I still ended up back doing what I'm supposed to do. Wife, job, 2.3 kids, the cars, the dog. I know 3.3, right? So I did all that, and then I actually ended up, I don't know how many of you know my story, but I actually ended up getting separated from everything that I had. Or, as I've looked at it, I've gotten separated now from everything that no longer served me. And I got a chance to relearn truth. Kind of what became my capital T truth. And you know what I mean by capital T truth? So what's true today, it's true it's 80 degrees out. It might not be true tomorrow, right? It's true that we're alive. That might not be true tomorrow. But what I call a capital T truth is something that's always true, everywhere, always, to everybody, eternally, infinitely, everywhere. Does that make sense? So I'm learning that kind of stuff. And some people hear that more naturally. Some people, like I said, are lucky enough to just pick up on it. And now, it's funny because some people who hear their truth, they're sitting there and they're in a job, right? Doing what they're supposed to do. And all of a sudden they hear this, what I call a niggling disquiet. Something needs to change. And all of a sudden they give the whole thing up and they move away, join the circus, and become a glass blower. What's the result of that? Peace. Life satisfaction. Passion. They lived their passion. Nobody else's. I got this favorite quote by a guy, Howard Thurman. He says, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what lights you up and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who are lit up." That's why we're here. We come here with some kind of energy, some kind of innate power, which is our individual way that we show our light. Some people channel as artists, musicians, some are project managers, moms, athletes. Everyone has a sweet spot. And whatever that particular occupation, vocation, or passion is, we have that built-in propensity for something specific. And on one hand, that's a good thing, we follow that. On the other hand, is that answer at all the destiny question? I don't know, really. And if it is, if we are guided by destiny, then who gets to determine that? Anybody believe here that your path is predetermined? Okay, somebody might, yeah. Okay, that works. You don't have to raise your hands, just go like this. And if you think you know how it's going to end up, then why do we do this? It's like watching a game that was taped last week. You know how it ends. Do you know how your life is going to end? And if you do, then is that going to change the way you live it? I don't know. A lot of questions. What's your purpose? I don't know. Why are we here? I don't know. But that's okay. We're seekers. That's why we're here. Because we found a place that asks good questions. And whatever the answers that you find for yourself are, they're your answers. And they work for you. And you know that. And that's the only thing that matters. The only thing that matters is you're living your life, your passion, your way. That's why we're here. I don't think we're here to cure cancer. I don't think we're here to write the great American novel. Not a bad thing to do while we are here. But we're here to learn something, probably about love. Again, capital L, all-encompassing, eternal oneness love. Probably has something to do with embracing love, being love, sharing love, teaching love, showing love. That's why we're here. That's our soul's journey, is all of that. Well, I also think we won't necessarily know the reason we're here until we're not here anymore. But then we'll figure that out. We don't know where to look for that, of course, and there's a story about the gods up on the hill, wondering where they're going to hide the truth from man, because man's not ready for it yet. And they had this meeting, and somebody says, well, let's hide it up at the highest mountain. Well, that's a good idea. And they talked about it for a minute. They said, you know what? No, man's pretty ingenious. They'll probably find their way to the highest mountain, and they'll get that. What else do you have in mind? How about the deepest parts of the ocean? Yeah, and they all got off in their breakout rooms. Way back in the day, they had breakout rooms. No, man's pretty ingenious about that, too. I think that they'll find it down there. And somebody comes up and he says, you know what? I know where to hide it. Hide it in their hearts. They'll never think to look there. That's where the answer is. Look there. Get in there. And you'll find the true meaning, at least, of your life. Sometimes I wonder, why do humans behave the way we do? Other than, drinking too much. We know that one. But are we predestined to any kind of a particular life? Is it our genes? Is it nature versus nurture? I don't have any answers. What's it mean to be human? Write that down. That's great fodder for dinner table conversation. In fact, next time you're at Starbucks, turn to the person behind you at line and say, hey, what's it mean to be human? The looks alone will be worth that. We are fascinating creatures, aren't we? We're intelligent, we're social, we're creative, capable, compassionate. We're also unconscious, destructive, biased, and selfish. Sound like anyone you know? Don't be pointing fingers now. So I'm wondering, how do river dolphins fit into all of this? Dolphins have access to every bit of waterway in the whole planet. Yet, for some reason, some of them like the boundaries of the river. I'm pretty sure they hadn't consciously thought about that. Though dolphins, from what I understand, are smarter than many humans that we know. So if you're open to this, there's tremendous freedom in boundaries. Is it easier to order from a one-page menu or from the Cheesecake Factory encyclopedia? There's a lot of examples how limits can open us up. For example, I was in what I call a Nazi blues band. There will be 3 chords, and that's it. Okay, so after I got over that, there's tremendous freedom in trying to create in 3 chords, right? How do you make that work? So there's freedom in the boundaries. And I'm thinking that the Dolphins inherently knew that in the muddy waters, in those boundaries, whatever dolphins do, there's freedom there, whatever that means. Boundaries actually could be a catalyst to possibilities for more opportunities. Right? I know it sounds counterintuitive, but try it sometime. Viktor Frankl found ultimate freedom in the concentration camps. He made that decision. So now we're talking about freedom just a sec. Freedom resides in your personal definition of what that is. You know, there's jokes out there, well, you know, I'm getting married. Well, there goes your freedom. Some people think I'm getting married and it just opens it up. So what is your decision about this? And I wasn't really going to go here, but I'll just touch on this for a minute because it is our Freedom Weekend. Nice colors, by the way. There's a perception among some people that a lot of our freedoms are being taken away. Limited, whatever. I don't want to get into a big discussion. I just want to acknowledge it. This is our freedom. This is what we can do. This is where we feel. This is where we live. So allow yourself to live your freedom. Your freedom. Use Viktor Frankl as an example. That's what really matters. And with that, we won't feel the limited belief. We won't feel the weight of the world keeping us from whatever light we've been brought here to share. So know that. Look into animals. Animals are great teachers. Did you know that we share somewhere between 65 and 99% of our DNA with animals? We also share DNA with our food, right? A little bit. When you say that your little sister's bananas, 60%. And there's a lot of inherent similarities between species, and it's really interesting seeing everybody get along. I saw a thing last week about an alligator showing love to the man that saved it. An alligator, a primitive, prehistoric killing machine showing love. It's a beautiful thing. I saw a camel and a cow as best friends. You see these. Dog and deer, you know, all of them. But what that means to me is that communication, that love, that soul spark that lives in everything doesn't care what you look like. It cares who you are, and that's where the connection is. That confirms my belief in oneness. It confirms my belief in unconditional love. So do we live as one? Do you individually can honestly say that you live as one? Do you live in harmony with the planet, nature, and all living beings, including yourself? There's an awful lot of looking out there. How do we treat ourselves? We see animals being just fine with themselves. They accept their place in life without question. For instance, if you have a plant-eating animal, an animal with meat will be completely safe because they don't get outside of their own thing. They live in harmony. It's natural for them. So here's a changing lanes once again. Who's had the experience of being what's considered in the zone? A few of you. Isn't that great? Unconscious, right? Oh, he's unconscious. No, they're in the zone. And that's kind of separating our awareness from our humanness when we get into that space. And I think that's where Gus hangs. Gus is in the zone. Gus is awareness. We are here. One of the reasons that they say we're here is that we are here so that Gus can feel, so that God can experience. because that's not something that they do. We take our lives for granted. Let's not do that, because it's a beautiful thing, and it means so much to the whole thing, more than it means to us here. Helen Keller, in darkness, until she put together the fact that this stuff all over her hand and this thing for water made sense, and her world opened up. That's the kind of awareness that we can look forward to when we allow the possibility that we are more than just walking around in these human suits. We need to remember who we are. That's what we're remembering. Whatever that means to you. So since this presence is in, through, and as absolutely everything, it must be in, through, and as you. So we can think about that. And if it doesn't make sense right now, that's okay. It really is. It's part of the journey. But just be open to the possibility that there's more. And whatever that more is yours. Ernest Holmes says, there is but one presence in the universe. Since it is in and through everything, it must be in, through, and you. The presence manifests itself in and through all forms, all people, all conditions. This presence is life itself, and its nature is love and givingness. How many really remember the givingness part of this? Just think about it, you know. We do what we do. There's always a little bit more, right? Let's work to remember who we are, what we're part of. And let's work to remember, and this is something we can do, is incorporate that love and the givingness as we treat everybody as one as we are. Let's treat our home and the planet with respect. Let's treat other species with respect, with love, with compassion. Let's treat other people with a little bit of understanding, followed by love, respect, compassion. Let's treat ourselves. That's where it starts, right? Treat yourself with love, respect, and compassion. Remember, you will know, and the freedom to do so starts right here. And so it is. Thank you. So let's lock this in with a little bit of prayer. I do know that there is just this one perfect energy, this one perfect life. Infinite, eternal, all-encompassing. Right? Everywhere, always, in, through, and as everything. In, through, and as each one of us. I know that as we walk our journey to wherever that may take us, we are open to not only seeing the light, but feeling the light and being the light, that that light is really who we are. And when we allow that to be our experience, our light shines, and it gives other people permission to let their light shine. And as one big, light, loving energy of love and respect, we find our way towards that world that works for everyone in peace, harmony, freedom. And as I speak these words, I know that they ring as truth because they've come from above. They've come from divinity. They've come from Gus. And with love and appreciation, I hand them back. The power of circulation to the law, which does nothing but say yes. When we own this, the law says yes. So I plant them in that fertile fields of activity to allow it to grow, to become our experience. And I know that it is done. As we speak it, as we know it, it is. So with great gratitude, I let it be in all its glory and all its perfection, accepting it and expecting it and knowing it is so. If you lock it in with me and say, and so it is.